The elderly tycoon passed away suddenly, leaving a portion of his estate to the family dog. His eldest son received only a case of wine, while the father bequeathed all his assets to the youngest son. But it didn't end there. Even the old butler inherited a lakeside cottage, and the daughter and mother were well taken care of. Why such harshness toward the eldest son? When the lawyer read the will, the eldest son doubted his ears and demanded a second reading.
But the will is clear. The estate goes to Edward, and the title contains a special remainder that allows it to pass to the second.
Fred was stunned. He believed that in Britain, the eldest son inherited property and titles. It was even written in the Bible. His father, one of only 24 dukes in the UK, couldn't possibly be unaware of this. With countless estates and manors under his father's name, even a fraction squeezed from his father's fingers would suffice for his entire life. Why then had his father been so cruel to him? Even if he went to the king to complain now, it would be useless. The will had been executed in the presence of a solicitor. Fred angrily threw his father's will aside. His younger brother Eddie was also surprised. He hadn't expected to inherit anything. Yet, on his deathbed, their father had instructed him to take care of his brother and protect their family. He went to the wine cellar, where Fred sat drinking alone. Seeing Eddie approach, Fred dismissed his wife. He confessed that he'd thought inheriting the estate would allow him to repay his debts, but things had taken a turn for the worse. It turned out that not long ago, Fred had been swindled into owing a staggering £4 million. Eddie asked who he'd borrowed the money from.
I owe a Scouse crime family £8 million.
Hold on, Freddie. 4 to 8. Throw me an anchor.
Okay, they're gangsters. They fucking make it up as they go along.
All right, mate. 25% every week.
With compound interest, it had ballooned to £8 million. Worse, the debt was owed to the mob. The mob didn't care who you were. If you couldn't pay up when the time came, they'd take your life. Though he knew his brother Fred was a scoundrel, now that Eddie had inherited the estate, it was his responsibility to resolve this. He began scrambling for funds, but after combing through his late father's entire estate, he could only come up with £2 million in cash. He sought out lawyer Hamid to assess his assets, explaining his urgent need for money and inquiring how much liquid cash he could access. When Hamid learned Eddie needed such a large sum immediately, he expressed surprise. He confirmed Eddie had inherited substantial assets, but the cash reserves were limited. Hamid suggested selling the painting on the wall could cover the amount, though it would take several months. Fred needed the funds by the weekend. Hamid then mentioned an anonymous buyer willing to purchase one of Eddie's estates above market value. Eddie instructed his lawyer to arrange a meeting with this buyer to hear the offer. Having just inherited a vast fortune, Eddie hadn't anticipated having to sell assets so soon. He was puzzled. Why would this anonymous buyer offer such a premium for his property?